Dr. Hassan. Hello, thank you very much for coming back to the short coffee break. Now we have the last panel in the International Multidisciplinary Conference entitled Revisiting Hybridity in Textile Context, held in Faculty of Arts and Humanities, K1. We have 5 presenters in this last panel, session 9. We have belwefi, where new partners, identity construction, messing or language, now to accompany me. We have an online presenter, Nur Najjar, being and becoming negotiating the micropolitics of identity, belonging, and hybridity in our message indeed to remain. We have also Muaz Dini. His presentation is going to be entitled Formative Assessment Practices and Tools for Hybrid Learning, in the case of the Tunisian EFL class. We have Dr. Hassan Rabhi presentation as well. Dr. Hassan Rabhi presentation. I will find the title later on. And we have a presentation by Mimoun Meliti, Impact of Hybridizing Learning and Assessment on Students' Achievement, case of prep year students. Without further delay, I would like to leave the floor to Dr. kelthoum belwefi, who will enjoy 15 minutes of presentation.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so hello to all. First of all, I would like to say that I am beyond proud and glad to take part in this edifying symposium, so thanks everyone for this opportunity. And now I'm going to get directly into the crux of my paper, which is entitled Towards a New Awareness, Identity Construction in a Zimmer's None to Accompany Me. Okay, so the novel was written during a seminal moment in the South African history, as it marked the official collapse of apartheid, that is the whites-only regime, and the first democratic elections in South Africa, which coincided with the release of Nelson Mandela from prison. So, Zimmer in this novel does things with the central issues of the intermillennium, counter-violence, the perpetual state of exile and unholiness inflicted upon the South African subject. So the whites-only regime is actually a whole colonial enterprise, so it's not only a political ideology, but also a whole cultural heritage. So it's a long-term cultural heritage that subtly indoctrinates people by inculcating them a set of Eurocentric propensities. So its official collapse is followed by a volatile period which is called the intermillennium, which is a concept taken from Anthony Branch's The Intermillennium, and which reads as follows, and I quote, "The old is dying and the new cannot be born. In this intermillennium there arises a great diversity of morbid symptoms." Now I'm going to move on to the outline of my paper. So first of all, I will start with a general introduction. Then I will move on to the second part, which is entitled The Instabilities of the Intermillennium. Then the last part, which is entitled Rethinking Post-Apartheid Identity and the Duality of At-Homeness and Unhomeliness. So starting with a general introduction, I'd like to say that the move or the transition from apartheid to post-apartheid is not a trouble-free process. So that is the move from a race-based to race-neutral regime is a thorny process, so it's not trouble-free. So the official jettisoning of the apartheid regime in South Africa is followed by an intermillennial phase, which is marked by its main volatilities. So the the interregnum or the interregnum phase is a volatile period, it's an unsteady period, so people are torn between two reigns, two identities, and two realities. The Gramscian concept of the interregnum is evolved in this Gordimer novel as the old regime is collapsing, so it's losing its integrity while a new democracy is embryonic or a new democracy is grappling. So the blurred reality of the interregnum leads to a blurred subjectivities, which is the major template of my paper. So Gordimer aims at charting national identity in an age that is still affected by the residual effects of the world's only regime. And of course the colonial baggage. So apartheid, as I said earlier, is a whole colonial enterprise that aims at instilling hierarchies within the South African nation. So as a corollary, the whites only breeds a militaristic system that continues to flourish after its official collapse, and despite the outburst of counter-violence as a means or as a weapon of resistance. Now I'm going to move on to the second part of my presentation, which is entitled The Instabilities of the Interregnum. So the Gramscian concept of the interregnum, which reads as the old is dying, that is, the old regime is dying, and the new cannot be born. In this interregnum, there arises a great diversity of morbid symptoms, is evoked in this novel. So in this, in the novel, Nadir Gordimer talks about the interregnum as people are stuck between two regimes, two reigns, that is the whites only and the new democracy which is getting its shape. So getting a sense of selfhood in an interregnum period that stirs up feelings of discontentment and unbelonging is a major challenge. In living in interregnum, Gordimer refers to the transitory period as a state of, and I quote, Hegel's disintegrated consciousness of contradictions that is not only between two social orders, but between two identities, one known and discarded, the other unknown and undetermined. Okay, so we have two identities. The old identity is collapsing, and the other one is still undetermined and unknown. So Nadir Gordimer tries hard to chart the national identity after the official fall of the whites-only regime. So basically, the interregnum ascertains three basic facts, and I quote here a critic named Ernest Cole. He said that the interregnum ascertains three basic facts: the impending death of the old, the inability of the new to be born, and the uncertainty of the future. So there is a blurred reality. Okay? So violence, in this case, might be deemed as a way to obliterate the division set between whites and non-whites. So violence, according to Frantz Fanon, I actually relied on Frantz Fanon's text, The Wretched of the Earth, when he talked about violence as the outset of decolonization. Decolonization is basically a violent process. Okay? So violence is the outset of decolonization. So according to the Fanonian dispensation, violence is a weapon of empowerment that lets the natives deconstruct the downtrodden image often associated with non-whites. Thus, violence may be driven by an inner force to change one's selfhood, that is one's sense of self, and capsize, that is, overturn what is deeply inherent in the South African consciousness. So in a way, violence cuts with the stasis and inertia often associated with the image of non-whites. So now blacks are the holders of the torch of power. So violence becomes a kind of language, so they capsize or overturn the parameters, the iniquitous parameters of the past, and they hold the torch of power. Okay, so Violence is a way to resist, oppose, and subvert the unilateral construction of society. One of the books that inspired my reading strategies in my paper is Article Calibrations, Reading for the Social, in which he says, and I quote, "The subterranean feeling for violence that subsists in ordinary people under a totalitarian regime. The totalitarian state apparatus has always shown a predilection for violence. There is always the readiness to make violence, okay? So to decolonize South Africa is not a straightforward process, as Franz Fanon theorizes in his work, Merchant of the Earth. And I quote Fanon here, decolonization, which sets out to change the order of the world, is obviously a program of complete disorder. And I quote, overturning the South African regime is coupled with a drastic change in the way the South African subject is identified. So in the novel, characters try hard to seek the definition amidst the new reality. Okay? Now I'm going to briefly quote Franz Fanon. He says, national liberation, national renaissance, the restoration of nationhood to the people, commonwealth, whatever may be the headings used, all the new formulas introduced, decolonization is always a violent phenomenon. Okay, so this is the gist, this is the quintessence of Franz Fanon's theory. He says that decolonization is primarily a violent process. Okay, now I'm going to quote him once more. He says that decolonization never takes place unnoticed, for it influences individuals and modifies them fundamentally. It brings a natural rhythm into existence, introduced by human, with it a new language and a new humanity. Okay, so decolonization is about bringing a new world, a new humanity, a new identity, and a new sense of being. Okay. Now I'm going to move on to the third part of my paper, which is entitled Rethinking Post-Apartheid Identity and the Duality of At-Homeness and Unhomeliness. In fact, from the very onset of the book, Nadim Ordino makes it clear-cut that one's sense of identity is blurred, as the main character, Vera Stark herself, does not know who her child's father is. So the issue of identity crisis, let's say, is very clear from the very onset of the book. So amidst a rapidly changing social order, characters try to embrace a new sense of self-worth and try hard to seek recognition. Thus, having returned to their home after years of exile, the McConnells, is a black family, try hard to adjust to their new country. So amid a highly muddled reality and disordered political arena, characters struggle to adjust to the new social order and get a sense of selfhood. So getting a sense of home after years of exile is hard to materialize, as it implies getting a new self-image. The duality of home and exile is fairly ubiquitous in the novel. Okay, it's one of the major dualities that are evoked in this Gordimer novel. And now I want to quote Nadim Gordimer very briefly. She says, there were no indemnities, there was no lifting of bans on political movements. The last thing the man looked for was to be recognizable. To be recognized was to be hunted. So the notion, the very notion of home changes in the novel. Characters no longer feel at home, neither here nor there, neither in their country of origin nor in exile. Okay. So almost no one feels at home, for the here and there gets different meanings. The here and there dichotomy is omnipresent in the text. I think that I have to skip. To sum up, to construct a hyper-national identity during the interim order is difficult to materialize. between an unforgettable past, between an unforgettable period of exile and a home that offers no feelings of comfort and relief. The South African subject is torn. Reconstructing national identity is thus untoward. Going back home after years of exile evokes much unholiness. So unholiness is a key word in my paper, and now I want to quote Christina very quickly. She says, the attraction of power predestines us as victims, and the us here refers to whites. So whites are predestined as victims in the new paradigm, okay? So you can see here that the us versus them dichotomy is there in the text. Now I'm going to move on to the major findings of my paper. Despite her attempts to transcend and circumvent the dualities purveyed by colonialism and apartheid, Nadine does not move beyond the us and them paradigm. Fair enough, post-colonial literature attempts to horizon towards the better nation by transgressing the narrow classifications of the past and connecting the different parcels of a multiracial society. Nonetheless, this remains difficult to materialize, as the novel is still implicated in the here and there dichotomy, us and their dichotomy, perpetrator versus victim dichotomy. So Nadine does not transcend, she does not move beyond the separatist rhetoric of the past, okay? Thus, to reimagine the country's possibilities is what this feated anti-apartheid author pines for. Nonetheless, despite her feated anti-apartheid attitude, moving beyond the remnants and the residues of the past and breaking free from the manacles and shackles of the intervening period is still untoward, which ends up blurring national identity. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Belwefi, from Faculty of Letters and Humanities, SUS, for this very informative presentation as well, and for sticking to the time allocated to you. Thank you very much indeed. The floor is yours now, Mr. Moaz Zindini. We'll be talking about formative assessment practices and tools for hybrid learning, the case of Tunisian EFL class.